Hi, everybody. I'm Shola. I'm a software engineer and part-time content creator on YouTube and Twitch, and you are now watching the Open Discussion Podcast.
Hey everyone, this is the Open Discussion Podcast, and my name is Janae Middleton. I am super excited to be here with all of you guys today. Thank you once again for tuning in. This is our interview edition, and we have with us the one and only Mr. Shola here.
Hello.
Thank you for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so how are you feeling?
Good, nervous, anxious, but kind of excited. I've never really done a real official interview like this, so This is kind of dope. Yeah.
So this is the first one?
Yeah, like with mics in my face and everything, and in the studio, so...
So can you just give us a bit of background as far as who you are and what you do?
Who I am and what I do? Well, first and foremost, everyone knows, I'm a believer, Christian first and foremost, but I'm a software engineer, but more specifically a Scrum Master, where basically we manage the software engineering process for developers. So I've been doing that for a couple of years. And on the side, I'm a content creator on YouTube and Twitch, and I cover a specific anime called One Piece. I'm a big fan of that. And been doing it for about 3-4 years, and it's been pretty good. And it's like one of the places where I can really express who I am as a person, and I can just feel very comfortable and present. So that's kind of a little bit about what I do. And then I'm Nigerian, was born in England, came to America, lived in America for all these years, and just a lot. There's a lot to unpack. So I'll just leave it short there, and then maybe we can dig deeper.
Yeah, so Shola and I, we attend the same ministry at church. And so we've had the opportunity to just have several conversations. And so just in conversing with you, I've had several questions in mind in regards to how you became a software engineer and then were introduced to the YouTube social media space. So can you just give some information as far as how that happened for you?
So I guess the way it starts off is when you're a young Nigerian kid, you kind of only have a few options, right? Engineer, doctor, lawyer, like you're kind of pick out of that. And I was good at math in school, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did computer engineering in college, per my dad's request, although he kind of pushed me in that direction. He didn't force me to do it, but it's something I know, the family would be proud of, they would be proud of. So I did that. After I graduated from engineering at University of Delaware, I got a job at a bank as a software engineer, but it was mainly testing. So I got that right out of college, so I kind of just fell into it. So then I did that for a couple of years, became a software engineer where you're doing a lot of coding. Didn't really feel too comfortable with it, so then that's when I switched to being a Scrum Master. But in the middle of that process, I felt comfortable being there because it's like, all right, my family, they're going to be happy I'm doing a job that's paying good money. I don't have to worry about that whole cultural stigma of like, okay, you went to school, you did engineering, they're doing that so you have a good career so you can be able to provide for your family in the future to make good money. So I did that, kept me in that space. It was more of something I just felt like I needed to do. It wasn't really something I wanted to do.
Gotcha.
So while I was kind of lost at my job at the moment and be like, I'm going to be doing this forever. It's kind of mundane. Am I good at it? I guess, but I don't really have a passion. I always felt like people knew what they wanted to do. Of like, for example, my sister, she's very artistic. She's a great artist. So she had that outlet. But I never really had an outlet of something that was like creative. And I felt like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. Nothing that's really coming out of me. And while I was at work, a lot of people used to tell me like, hey, like, you got a really bright personality and you're really funny. And, if you just make some YouTube videos, like, I think you could be good at it. And there'd be so many people like, create a YouTube. And how it all started is I was a part of this YouTube community where there was a lot of young black YouTubers that I was really fond of, like they're entertainers. They were able to express their blackness, but in an anime space, which was something that was new at the time. So me being a big fan of anime, me being a big fan of their content, I looked at them and be like, I could be just like them.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for me to just show who I am and just be who I am. So when I finally moved out of my parents' place, I got a cheap little webcam, a laptop, and I just started talking on the mic and just talking about whatever series that was out at the time. And the more I did it, the more comfortable I felt, the more there would be like nobody there in the chat, and I'm just streaming live, and I'm just like talking to myself the whole time. But it's like I was entertaining myself, and I would go back and I used to watch all my videos all the time, and I used to be my like biggest supporter. And I'm looking at myself, I'm like, yo, like I'm not even thinking, like everything is one take, everything is coming out of me naturally. And I think I'm pretty funny. So I was like, yo, this is great. Like I feel good about it. And then the first, your first viewer comes in, they hang out and stay, and then it comes 2, 3, 4. And then all of a sudden, instead of talking to like 0 people, I'm talking to 4 people. Wow. And those 4 people meant the world to me, because I'm like, yo, you're here watching me, terrible camera, terrible mic quality, no presentation or anything, but you're just here for me. So the more that grew, the more people came for me. My content is really predicated on just me. Obviously, it's about like a specific show, but it's more about me expressing myself and who I am, all my jokes, my gimmicks, all of that.
Yeah.
So the more I did that, the more I felt like I could do my career job, as a software engineer, provide, for myself, pay my rent, have some money on the side. And then this was just a way and a means to express myself. So it was never really a goal of being popular on social media or being popular on YouTube. It was an expression of myself. And once that became bigger, I felt as if, wow, not only do I feel fulfilled in it, but it's like people are noticing something in me that I didn't even realize would be that big of a deal. So like it was a big transformation for me, and it's kind of hard because at one point it became a job.
Right.
And then another time it was like, but if people like this, there's something that you have that people are looking for. And that made me feel like maybe this thing that I thought would just be an expression of myself is bigger than me. So like it's been a great journey.
I have questions. So earlier you mentioned that within the African culture, there are about 3 routes that you could take. You said lawyer, doctor, and engineer.
Yeah.
Why is that so?
I think it's because most African parents, specifically Nigerian, will send their kids overseas to get one of those 3 or 4 degrees, because it's all about prestige, right? It's all about the Nigerian name. It's about, most Nigerian parents love to brag about their kids. That's like a pastime for them. It's like, oh, look at my son, he got a master's. That whenever you graduate with a bachelor's degree, what are you doing for your master's? Are you doing your doctorates? Most Nigerians do masters and doctorates, right? So it's more of just a prestige. It's almost like a pride, a cultural pride thing, especially when you're sending your kids to England or the United States. It's like there's a presentation that we want to send to the world that Nigerians are very smart, intelligent people, which we are. But that's a culture that continues, and any Nigerian kid you'll ask, that's mainly the route they take. And if they're taking another route outside of those 3, you better get the master's. You better be making money. You better be doing something with it. I better be something of prestige, because Nigerians work extremely hard. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, because most of the times, especially when you're born in a country with a different culture than Nigeria, you look at other people and you see how they get to express themselves, or people want to be artists, or people want to be photographers. We don't really, when we express that, we kind of get met with, okay, that's fine, but how are you going to provide for your family? And since we have very traditional values and backgrounds, the man should be capable of paying for everything, taking care of the kids, the wife, the family. Like that's just how Nigerian daughters were raised. Their fathers were in that role, and that's how Nigerian men see that with the mothers. Like, I'm going to take care of my mom, I'm going to take care of my sister. And when they're older, you're expected to take care of the grandparents. They're supposed to live with you, provide for them, buy houses, send money back to Nigeria. So it's really just about a whole system of provision.
Okay. I want to ask why, but I understand that I'd have to ask every mother and father.
Yeah, I mean, the answer why, I guess I never even sat down to think about it. I just thought it was okay. It was a smart thing to do. The norm, just because it's like, you want your kids to be successful. You don't want to have to worry about your kids. You want your kids to be better. So that's kind of just the whole ideology of just, if I'm sending you to another country, you better be the best.
Okay.
And that's the whole mantra. Like you can ask any Nigerian kid. They'll have the same answer.
So how did that pressure impact or influence your decisions? Because you talk about stepping into the content creation phase, And at first it was like you weren't really sure if you could do it publicly or in front of your family or let them know. But now you have like your own space and you're able to move into the content creation at your leisure. Right. So how were you still nervous even when you were in your own space to step into this content creation?
Yes. I would say just because there's an expectation that comes with being in a Nigerian family. The culture is very different than American culture. So if you're in America, there are certain things that kids with their parents do that Nigerian parents don't do, right? It's very much, Nigerian parents don't always say I love you, not in a bad sense, but it's more of just like, yo, my love for you is action, provision, taking care. They'll pay for school, pay for the car. Like they'll do a lot of things to take care of their kids. So in terms of like love, that's never been an issue, but the dynamic is different. Okay. So you have this sense of expectation and pressure that you put in yourself that I need to be a certain way to adhere to the traditional values because you don't want to be a shame to your parents, right? Just because you know how other Nigerian families and parents, they love to talk about their kids. They love to brag about their kids. My son's a doctor. My son's a lawyer. Like sometimes they may not even notice, but it's what they do, right? And the funny thing about us Nigerian kids in this generation, we all share the same type of stories. So we all go through the same thing. So I think with that pressure, it was hard for me to kind of express my content creator side because it's not the norm. And it's not the most culturally in tune. Right? So, and I'm not even talking about like regular topics. It's a very niche topic as well. So expressing that side of me was difficult, and for a while I hadn't told anyone in my family. Like it was very much a kept secret until last year, ironically. So there was a side of myself that was just completely shut off. So when you're being pulled in one direction and then pulled in another, it creates a lot of stress, imposter syndrome, anxiety, lots of different things that I didn't realize I didn't have to deal with until I was just bold enough to share it.
But you're also a successful content creator. I mean, in the eyes of culture and society, reaching 50,000+ subscribers on YouTube and having thousands of subscribers and thousands of people tuning into your content, I mean, that is successful in a lot of people's eyes. So when it came time to actually share and open up, was the success of the platform another reason why you had another level of boldness? Because you could say this is what occurred, or this is the result of me putting in the effort in this thing that I'm really passionate about.
I would say yeah. I think it was good that I had good amount of success. So I could tell my parents when I told them, it's like, I'm not doing this as some kind of joke or a gimmick. This isn't just like some rebellious phase that I'm going through. Like this is something I'm good at. Like this is something that I didn't even know I could get to until I'm at this point. And it was at a point where I realized like people started to notice who I was, that I'd never met before. Like I'd be out in Philly and people like, yo, like you're that guy. And I'm like, I never thought I was that successful like that. But when it started to happen, I'm like, I'd rather just tell my parents now instead of them finding out, because then I opened up a little bit to my uncle about it. And it also just felt bad because there would be times where I'd have to go home and I couldn't explain why I had to go home, but it was because I had to go take care of some video stuff, some business. So eventually I'm like, listen, this is a part of who I am. You may not like it, but it's getting pretty big. Like it's becoming another job. Like at this point now, it's literally a second and third job.
And your faith in regards to how you maneuvered with your content creation, how was that as far as how you integrated the two?
The thing that I've always done is I've been open about who I am and my beliefs. At the end of the day, my channel is about the specific anime that I cover. And then with Twitch, I'm a little more free reign because I can just do just chatting streams, or I'll watch anime, but I can sit down and just talk to the chat. So I don't hide my faith. People know who I am. It's a part of me. It's part of who I am. No matter what's going to happen, I'm always going to believe in God. I'm always going to believe Jesus died for my sins. Like, that is who it is. I was raised in the church, so it comes out anyway. Yeah. So the way I approach it is people just know I'm a Christian. That's it. No point blank. There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. If God comes up in a topic, I'll talk about it freely.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll have discussions about it. Sometimes I'll be able to make jokes about it, you know, that ties into my content. So like there are certain things that will happen in the show, and I'll be like, you know, there'll be like a sign of a devil or something, like a little demon. I'm like, yo, we rebuke that. Like we're not here for that, right? And I'm able to have fun with my faith on my channel, which makes me comfortable with my faith at the same time. And I feel like it's 100% possible for you to have your own content, your own creation, have it be about the content you're talking about, but also openly profess your faith for you. Yeah. So that's kind of how I started to reconcile myself with my content. And also just including God in it sometimes. Sometimes I felt like I just had to be a content creator, but I felt like God wouldn't want any part of it. But I realized that's the worst thing I could do, right? Like God gave me this personality. He gave me the ability. He made me who I am. Yeah. So who I am is an expression of God itself. Yeah. Everything I say might not be of God, but at the same time, who I am innately is from him. So including him in it has also made me closer to God, because it's like he wants you to express the gifts he's given you. And your gifts will lead to things that you may not know is coming. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to keep doing until something else comes up.
You preaching a little bit. You know that. No? I think this conversation is liberating people in a way, because you're addressing just not being able to really step into purpose or step into what you believe you're supposed to be doing because of what the cultural norm is. But also there are people who may not be in the African culture, but they have parents, they have family members that completely disapprove of what they desire to do and what they are passionate about. So can you just even talk about getting the courage to move in purpose, getting the courage to move and step out on a dream, and what we can do in order to really be effective in what we're called to do?
I think it's a good question, because it's something that I've been thinking about for the last month and some change. Okay. And something that I've reconciled with. First and foremost, you got to accept that God loves you, right? You hear that a lot because I grew up in the church. You know, my parents are pastors, so I've heard all the Christianese, I've heard all the jargon, I've heard all the speak, so I know how to speak it if I need to be. I realized that I didn't need to be like the Christians that I've seen my entire life, and that's something that I had to get over.
Explain that a little bit.
So,
elaborate.
When you go to church and, you know, worship service is going on, you're in the ceremony, you're hearing how people talk, and everyone's talking very nice, kind, you know, everyone's talking, you know, using words like manifestation and condemnation and all of the big Christianese words that we use, and you look at them and like, these guys are pillars of Christian perfection, and look at how they're strong in the Lord, and you compare yourself to them, and you're just like, yo, why don't I talk like them? Why don't I want to talk like them? Why don't I feel like that? Maybe I'm not a good Christian. Maybe I should try and be more like them. Wow. But what happens is you're trying so hard to please them and be like them that you're not even serving or following God anymore. You're just following the examples that you've seen. You're people pleasing the whole time. And people pleasing is something I've dealt with my whole life. And I was never happy. I was always uncomfortable in those spaces. And I realized like being uncomfortable in Christian settings, it just shouldn't be that way, right? That's not the point. But I think it's a trick that the enemy does to isolate you, because all he wants to do is isolate you. Unless you can accept the fact that God's love is constant, you're always going to have that issue. And that's something I had to accept. So once I just accepted that, yo, this is who I am. This is where I'm at. God loves me where I'm at. Yeah. Point blank. It's over.
Can we pause really quickly? Can you dive a little bit deeper into the people pleasing within the church, within the Christian culture? Like, just please, just go ahead. Go a little bit deeper.
So you love God. You know he's real. You've experienced him. So there's no debate of you going back. Some people go away from the church, but they're always convicted because they know God's real. So they just live in a tumultuous life. And I've done that. I've been there. And sometimes I go back and forth. But it was always that image of what I saw and what I was presented to in church. But the moment I'd step outside, they're not there anymore. So the only image of Christianity I ever saw was that. Always on fire, always talking with the spiritual jargon, always talking Christianese. I'm using Christianese very loosely here because that's the only way I can explain it, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So it'd be like, I'm in church, oh yeah, all I gotta do is just copy them and talk like them, and they're gonna smile at me. Man, I see God working through you. Wow, you got a big purpose in life. You're gonna be a pastor. Like, they're saying all this stuff to you, but it's like when they're not there, you have to go back to the real world and be who you are. And what happened is I didn't really see what a day-to-day Christian looks like. I just knew what a church Christian looked like. So because of that, I felt convicted if I wasn't like the church Christian all the time.
Wow.
And when I would not feel like just putting up that act over and over again, it's like the moment I'm in church, I'm like, all right, time to put my 1 hour shift in. And then when I come out, the shift is over. If you feel like you curse too much, that's something that's between you and God. You shouldn't do that to please other Christians in church. You should do that because you felt a conviction from God to do that. If you don't want to drink anymore, that should be between you and God. Be like, yo, God, I feel like I shouldn't be drinking. I need help. If you haven't got it, I'm not saying you should keep doing it, but it should be about you and God only. It should only be about you and God. And that's what freed me, is that it's no longer about what they think. I don't have to be like them anymore. If I'm connected to God, I'm going to be okay. But there's always consequences for your actions. So that's why when you read the Bible, it's a very practical thing, because it's like, listen, you can do that. Doesn't mean God doesn't love you. It doesn't mean his provision isn't there. But if you do something, the Bible tells you what will happen when you do something.
Right.
So are you willing to live with those consequences, or do you want to avoid them by listening to what God said? And that's when I started to realize that this walk with God isn't just some show. It's not just a play. It's not an act. Do this, this happens. Do that, that happens. But I'm constant. My love is constant. So you can trust me that no matter what situation happens, I'm here.
Yeah. I understand that. I really feel like there are people who are caught up in just the trying to play or put up a front or a mask, feel like they have to act a certain way at all times. But then behind closed doors is like, I need help.
They're a mess.
Yeah. And for this conversation or this moment where we're talking about just shatter the mask, just drop the front and be completely honest and transparent, and allow God to work with you. I also think that there's a such thing as like discipleship, and let me use a different word, accountability. So having people in your life that can assist you in your journey, in your walk with God. So you're not out here doing things alone, because at that point you're left to your own devices. You're left to your own thoughts. You're left to your own feelings. You're left to your own functions and proclivities. But when you are connected to other people, I think that that's important when it comes to any relationship. Like, we need other people in order for us to, I think, really walk this walk out. And so having that accountability, I think, is pretty key.
I agree 100%. And I think that's another big thing that helped me, is before I used to take a lot of advice, because the only people I could really, this is something my therapist told me that shook my spirit. He said, you feel so uncomfortable in church and around Christians because you feel like they're not going to accept you for who you are, but you feel more comfortable with people outside of the church and who are not Christians because they accept you for who you are. They see you and they're not bothered that you're a Christian. They just accept you. And that's upset me, because I'm like, but it shouldn't be that way, right? Because the way I think and the way they think is different, but they love me anyway. So I tend to lean more with them than anything else. So I'm like, it shouldn't be that way. Like, that's a problem. But I thank God for the strong Christian influences that have been coming to my life, but have also accepted me for where I'm at. You know, like my friend Sam and my mentor Paul and my uncle Jimmy. Like, these guys, they know about me, they know about my life, they know about my YouTube channel, they know what I do, and they've accepted me wholeheartedly. But they also give me strong, good Christian valued advice that helps me day to day.
I think because we're dealing with a bunch of humans, when it comes to being in a church setting, I think we also may leave out like the community aspect or like the relational aspect between humans. And though we are coming into church to learn about God, we are coming to church to worship, we are coming to church to gather and assemble. But within the assembling, within the gathering, I believe that there is also a space for connection and community between the people that you are gathering with. And so, in order for that connection to take place, there has to be a level of vulnerability and transparency. But what you were saying, like with the Christianese, and you were connecting with people or talking to people, and it was just like this surface level connection or surface level conversation. I think that's a people skill issue.
Yeah, I think so.
But like you said, it should not be, because as we're growing in Christ and we're growing in our relationship, I believe that we should be transformed into his image, and in his image there is a connection. There is this relational aspect where I can connect with my brother, I can connect with my sister, where the walls are no longer up and I can just be fully vulnerable and transparent. But I think that people come in, like everybody's coming in with their own things, their own past, their own trauma, their own issues. So I think the difficulty is that people may not have faced it, or maybe they are not willing to let those guards down to open up to anyone. So I don't know. It's so many things that it could be as to why there is not connection within the church.
I think it's 100% everything that you mentioned. And to add on to that, I think it's like someone has to break the barrier at some point, and someone just has to be bold, because sometimes just putting it out on the table and accepting it is the start of real relationship building. And that's something that I've learned. It took me a while to open up, like seriously, in my church. And the only one that got that was my Uncle Jamie. That was the first time I really told somebody in church, I have a YouTube channel. Like, this is what I do. This is my life. And from that forward, there was other people that I was able to slowly open up to, like you, and then Jerron. And then I kind of just took a bold step to just tell everybody, like, I'm just tired of hiding.
This is Shola, everyone. The software engineer and content creator. I tend to have pauses on our show because people come on here and they are just releasing wisdom and gems, and you've said a lot of great things. As we segue into just your content creation journey and everything that you've accomplished, can you go back to the steps that you were providing as far as how people can step into courage when it comes to pursuing a dream or something that they're actually passionate about that may not be approved by their friends, by family members?
Sometimes you just have to do it. And by do it, I mean just start from somewhere. We get caught up in perfectionism and how it's going to be done instead of just doing it. I didn't have good thumbnails. I didn't have a good mic. I didn't have a high-powered camera. I didn't have anything. I just had a rusty laptop, and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to talk about. So I just did it. And where I'm at now, so from 0 subscribers to 80,000 where I'm at now, it was like...
Oh, I was way off. I said 50 plus.
It's been a recent buzz. It's been a good month.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
But when I started, nobody was there. I remember my first goal was to get 100 subs. It took me about a month and some change to do that. And even compared to other people that do YouTube, that's also a huge milestone. So for me, it was very simple.
Okay.
Just put content out there. Just put it out there. Once you put it out there, you're building data. You're supposed to look at that data that you've put out there and observe it. The one time you get a comment, normally the feedback will tell you what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. Take that feedback and adjust little by little every video, right? And this is just purely from a content creation standpoint. But this is how I got the courage to do it, because I had to just do it. Don't worry about whether it's good or not. It's probably not going to be good. It's very rare that somebody does something the first time and it's good. So don't worry about it being good. Just try and do it. And don't stop there. Give yourself enough tries to have some data. And then when you have that data before you based on your own efforts, then you can look at it and be like, oh, I like this. Or, not really for me. If you like it, look at what you've done so far, analyze it, and then add one little improvement to it. People try to change so much all at once because I got to be like that guy. These guys have 100,000 subs. These guys have all these things that they've done, but this is a test of time. It's never just anything that comes too quickly doesn't last long, ever.
Yeah.
So once you have your data, build on that and just continuously go one step at a time. You got 10 subs this time. You got 11 subs the next day. You got 14 subs 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
That's progress. Fall in love with that small progress. Because once you fall in love with that small progress, you get excited for every tiny milestone you hit. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I hit 30 subs today. 30 people. Yep. Imagine 30 people in a room just listening to you talk.
Yep.
Once you can contextualize that achievement, you realize that these aren't just arbitrary numbers. These are human beings that press the subscribe button. Keep going. Some people fall in love with the large numbers, like, oh my God, like, I'm not as big as this other person. But what about the other people that are there?
Yeah.
They're there.
Yep.
They took their time out of your day. Think about how busy your day is. Think about you deciding to click on a YouTube video. You care about that person because they're giving you something you want.
Yep.
There's 30 other people that are doing that for you. They see something in you, so hone in on that. What did they have to say? Ask them questions. The people that support you, when you ask them why they support you and what you could do better, those are the people that always carry you higher. This is why I'll never forget the people that were in my chat when I was at 100 subs, when I was at 25 subs. I still talk to them to this day. We don't ground ourselves. We don't keep ourselves humble, especially when we get higher, because we feel like, oh, okay, now that's it, bro. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm a completely different person. But like, if it's a purpose, if it's something you're supposed to be doing, it's going to be repeatable. You're going to have help. You're going to have provision. And when you do it with God, God will do things for you that you don't even realize is God. Sometimes there's things that happen to me in my content creation journey that I kind of just took for granted as, wow, what a stroke of luck. But then I look at other content creators and I'm like, yeah, that's not normal. I was like, oh, that must have been God. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
You know? So for anyone out there that wants to take that step of courage and is worrying about how other people perceive that, if it's something that you feel in your heart that you're supposed to do it. There's one thing that we as Christians should never do, and that's operate in fear. Fear is the opposite of faith. And that's something that I've dealt with fear aggressively. So trust me when I'm telling you this, it's not easy. All right, this is a day-to-day thing. But like, if you're scared to do something, you're better off doing it and then finding out. Because once you beat that fear once,
say it.
Doesn't mean the fear is going to stop, but you've already beat it once.
Ooh, say
so
it.
You're getting stronger. I'm like, okay, I was scared last time I did it. I'm scared now, but I'm still going to do it. So you beat fear once, you beat it twice, you beat it 3 times. All of a sudden, you realize you're not as scared as you used to be anymore. And the fear doesn't go anywhere. The fear just comes in a different form, in a different shape. But after I beat that fear so much time, and I beat the fear of telling my parents, and then I beat the fear of telling my mom, and I beat the fear of telling my family. Now I tell anybody, like, yeah, I do YouTube. It is what it is. You don't have to like it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I'm not stopping. I'm not.
Say that.
So you get to that point, but it really comes with the first battle.
This is good.
You can't lose that first battle. Because if you lose that first battle, there's no point. What's the point? If you like UFC, there's great fighters out there. They got 14 knockouts, but they got 3 losses too. They didn't quit at that loss.
Did y'all hear him? Turn him up. Turn the volume up in your car, on your phone. Turn it all the way up. He is talking to you, to us, to me. Oh my goodness. That part, that fear part, that many people need to get over. They need to jump over that hurdle of fear.
It's scary.
Because it's stopping you. Like, you have so much that you need to do, and you are allowing fear to keep you in a stuck place.
Yeah. And the worst thing is fear will keep you in the place that you hate the most, and you think it's all you. It's just fear.
You'll think it's reality.
You think it's the reality the whole time. Trust me, I go to therapy. I go to therapy for the fear I had. So I know. Trust me, it's not easy, but Once you start beating it, you start realizing you become more of who you're meant to be when you start beating your own fear.
Yes. Shola, come on, because you're on a roll, low key. So good. This is so good. My final question. What would you say to someone who is close to moving in the direction of their dream, but they feel pressure on every side to stop or to do it a certain way or to not even do it at all? Like, they are so close to moving forward, but there is this like small voice that is saying, don't do it. Don't do it. You're not ready. You don't have it, and you don't have the talent. You're not skilled. You're not gifted. You don't look good enough. You're not tall enough. Short. Whatever the case is, like, they have this small voice that's trying to push them or pull them away from the thing that they're supposed to be doing. What would you say to that person?
One time, some people can confuse that with a voice of God telling them not to do something, and that's not the case. You know when it's God speaking, because God is always going to push you closer to him. Like, whatever his word says, you will know exactly, okay, God is pushing me to do this. God is telling me not to do this because the Bible says, and the Holy Spirit will lead you to the verse that will tell you and confirm it, right? So just to get that out of the way. But if you're hearing that voice at the back of your head, which is clear self-doubt, you're never going to get anywhere with doubt. You're never going to get anywhere with fear. Fear and doubt is only meant to hold you back.
Can you give some, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but can you give some quick examples as far as what doubt and fear sound like?
Doubt is when the word enough comes in, where you're just like, I'm not good enough. I don't look good enough. I'm not smart enough. There are hundreds of thousands of people that have had the same thoughts. And there's people that are successful now that have had those thoughts and still have those thoughts. The difference between them and you is that they ignored it and they fought through it. You will always be where you are if you feel like you're not enough. Only know that you're not enough.
I want to throw this water bottle at you. I'm sorry. Because if you're watching, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue. This is so good.
If you are not enough, find out that you're not enough. Don't let someone tell you you're not enough. It is better for you to try and fail and realize there's something that you can do to fix it than for you to tell yourself you can't do it and not even try to begin with. Find out that you're not enough. Don't say you're not enough. Because if you're not enough and you've tried, then you look at it and be like, what can I do to be enough? And then if you're not enough and it's like something that's intangible, if it's like a roadblock, maybe there's another avenue that you need to go into. But those skills brought you to a certain point. Maybe you need to use those skills for something else. You got to where you are for a reason.
Ooh-wee.
There's a reason you're here. It may not be what you think it is, but it's there for a reason, and it's leading you somewhere. It's all about resiliency. That's how you build strength. That's how you build character. That's how you become a strong person. There's no such thing as a strong person without fear and adversity. There's no such thing as strength.
I'm trying to end the podcast, but this is good. Isn't it good? Like, I'm looking at all the cameras. This is good. This is good. This is good stuff. Man, we have to wrap it up, but man, anything else that you want to say right now?
I would only say, I used to be so scared. So, like, for anyone that is feeling that fear, like, I know what that feels like, that trepidation of it's going to end, it's not going to work. And there will be people in your life that love you, genuinely love you, but they will instill fear in you. Out of their fear, out of their protection and fear for you, they'll instill fear from you to avoid you from getting hurt.
Like they did.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to understand that unless it's coming from someone that understands or comes from the same cloth as you, that will push you to fail so you can learn, sometimes you just have to fail to see what's on the other side. Sometimes the lesson that you need is in the failure, but you're not going to get that lesson until you fail. But that's where the faith in God comes in. because you have to have faith whether you succeed or fail.
Go after the thing that you are most afraid of. This is your sign. And with that being said, I want to thank all of you guys for tuning into the Open Discussion Podcast. Thank you once again, Shola, for being here, for just dropping gems upon gems. Like, it was just consistent, constant. You did not stop. But thank you guys once again. We will see you all next time. Peace out.